Hey, I hope you're doing well. I am back here in the office for the first time after being in California for over a week. I was there doing some private coaching, some group coaching, had a really good time. And the one story that jumps out most at me over the last several days of coaching with students, it was on the I actually don't I don't want to say what day. Well, I'll say what day. It was the last day of coaching. And Matt and I were working with a group of doubles players. We were working on overhead footwork. And I kind of hesitated about talking about which day because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but it is what it is. Like, here's the thing. I think it's critical to celebrate every win because wins are hard. Wins are tough to come by on the tennis court. Unless, listen, if you're in your teens or your 20s and you're really like talented and generally like coordinated, you have some like physical like gifts in terms of athleticism, then and it was an interesting group because we had one student. None of our students were like young people. These are all players that have been playing for a while, all like middle aged or older. And we had one player who was picking things up pretty quickly, and the other three having a hard time. And we were working on footwork patterns. And it was kind of towards the end of day two, and like by that point in one of our groups, any of our groups, like everybody's kind of getting tired. Everybody's getting a little bit like fatigued, like mentally and physically. It's been a lot of concentration. It's been a lot of focus. It's been a lot of moving around, running around, and overhead coverage and doubles is critical. And we were working on footwork patterns, and we had like the full range in our student group. We had a player who already was moving pretty athletically, and we were able to very quickly get her moving extremely athletically. And we had another player who was moving dangerously. Like when you move back for an overhead and your heels are just tracking back first, and the body doesn't turn at all, and the stance doesn't turn at all, and it's just like doing this kind of thing, like with the racket back and the heels going first. It's one of the biggest red flag. Like it's a bigger like anxiety point for me than when I see a player going towards a ball. Like even when somebody's going towards a ball, like I kind of see it in slow motion, like making the steps, and like the ball's rolling and they're getting closer. Even if they hit the ball, it's pretty unlikely there's going to be some kind of catastrophic injury. But man, when somebody goes back heels first for an overhead, it's really scary for me. I've seen people hurt themselves really badly doing that. So we saw both far ends of the spectrum, and the player who was going heels back first, we went through like step by step. We showed a professional example of like the Bryan brothers, how they pivoted and turned, and we demonstrated live, showed the pattern to the students. Then we, without a ball, we went through like slow like footwork, like pattern practice, and a couple like drills. And did we even hit overheads? I don't know that we even hit overheads. Maybe there's a couple tosses towards the end. Not even like real life, like a live like rally or anything like that. And this player just couldn't get it. And like going back and sitting down, like we would all kind of take a break, sit down, review the footage, and be like, okay, here's how you're looking, how you're looking. Like maybe, look, you should probably tweak this a little bit, and it'll be even better, yada yada. And going to the player who started at kind of the bottom end of execution was still at the bottom end of execution. And it was for me just like a stark reminder that depending on who you are and how deep your habits are, making any kind of change. And Matt and I, like afterwards, we just kind of sat down and talked about it. It was the end of our trip. It was the last day, the last clinic. We had a beer, like had a beer together, and we were just kind of like debriefing, and like just had a conversation about how, you know what, like any change, any improvement you make, you should totally celebrate. Like you should borderline like throw a party anytime you have proof that you used to do X that wasn't great, and now you're doing Y, which is better. Man, you should totally, that's a huge win. You should totally pat yourself on the back. You should feel like that's a gigantic accomplishment because it is. It's a huge accomplishment. Any habit change is a huge accomplishment, and so you should totally celebrate that because it's a big, big win. Because there's a lot of players out there that their deepest habits that are holding them back the most, it's like making any changes to them for some players it can feel next to impossible. And I could see the look in that player's face, when I brought up his video after doing all the explanation, all the demoing, all the drilling, like all the practice, like repetitions and all that. And I brought up his execution, and it was basically the same. I could see the look of disappointment and frustration in his face. And that's really, it's just very, very hard. It's hard for him. It's hard for the coach. You have to come up with even more creative, ways to try to break out of that habit, break out of that pattern. So anyway, I just wanted to pass that on. If you're in a position where you are seeing progress, I know I'm type A, like kind of perfectionistic personality myself. So I totally get it. I totally understand. It's so tempting to want to be like, oh, but I want to go faster and I want to reach this goal by this date. And you have like all the pictures in your mind of all the accomplishments that you want to achieve, so on and so forth. And you want it like faster, faster, more and faster, more and faster. It's so easy to get caught. But let me tell you what, like if you're seeing progress, please look back, and every little step along the way, just enjoy those moments. Like just enjoy those experiences of feeling like that was better. That is huge. And I don't ever want any of you to take that for granted. I don't ever want to take that for granted either, as a coach or as a player, from either perspective. I don't want to ever take it for granted that it can be like pulling teeth to make any improvement to certain things. Or for some people, make any improvement to anything can be extremely difficult. So a little bit of like, I guess, positivity today. Celebrate all those wins, even the ones that seem very small. It's a big deal. Keep up the good work. I'm really proud of you and all the work that you're doing, and I hope that you take some time along the way and really appreciate yourself as well for the work you're putting in.